All that, chief?
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a regularly scheduled meeting of the Suffolk County EMS Board of Oversight. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The meeting is being recorded. Please make sure you are muted if you're on Zoom, unless you are the active speaker. All public attendees are invited to participate at the designated time following completion of scheduled agenda items. We ask that you keep comments to under 3 minutes. You are welcome to have open discussions in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, but please be aware that chat becomes public record. Remote participants must identify themselves or you will be removed from the meeting. Not physically removed, we'll just shut you off. This is being done for the purpose of internet security, and our towns have had issues in the past, so we're very well of what happens. If you wish to speak, please state your name, your town, residence prior to speaking, so that we can maintain a good public record. All right, Chief, let's roll.
All right. Well, good evening. First things first, the minutes from the previous meeting are in front of everybody. If you've had a chance to go over those.
Okay, entertain a motion to accept.
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
We'll hear the motion made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Please declare it unanimous. Chief?
All right, so the report. Let's see if I can share this.
Before you continue, the agenda says approvals minutes from October 7th meeting, and I think just approved minutes from December 16th.
That's correct.
So the agenda was fine.
Right.
Just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Frank.
Since we didn't say what minutes we were approving.
So we will make the change in the agenda.
I just make it, be sure to note in the minutes which minutes we approved. Right.
All right. Fine.
To fill the screen.
I'm trying. Share with me. Zoom thing here is blocking.
There you go.
Here we go. All right, thank you. So, this is your fiscal year 26 end of second quarter report. We have some call data. We'll go over some system metrics, talk about revenues and expenses. I hope I don't bore you too much. Just a few updates. There's the vehicle replacement update. That is this week. Tomorrow, I'm traveling out to Syracuse, New York, to do a final inspection of the ambulance before we agree to hand over a check and take delivery of it. So that's tomorrow, and the delivery is scheduled for the following day, this Thursday. So that's far better than anybody could have hoped for or anticipated. That's of course dependent on snow. There's some weather coming in their area, so if it happens Friday, that's just fine with me too.
They never get snow in Syracuse.
Never. So that's happening this week, and it's going to take a couple of weeks to get it completely licensed, outfitted, official and all of that. And it should be on the road by the end of the month. So that's exciting news. Some of the other things going on in South County, we have 2 full-time employees who are either injured or sick. And that's caused a lot of strain on our system. We only have 10 full-time employees, myself excluded. So, unfortunately, both of them are on the same shift. And so that's left us with 80 hours of coverage needed in our full-time schedule. So people, the majority of people have been stepping up and taking a lot of shifts and helping out. I've done several of them myself. And we'll get through it. Hopefully back to business as usual, by February. We have seen a notable increase in flu, COVID, and norovirus calls. These, this is not unexpected. This is consistent with what we're seeing statewide, and across the region. There have been several state DPH memos about it, but we're seeing it. It's no joke. So on top of the injury and illness, people that are on longer term, we've been dealing with some of that. So that's happening. We had one part-time paramedic who was not reappointed by the Deerfield Select Board for just simply not coming in. They had done 24 hours of shifts in the entire calendar year. So they were purged. And there were no hard feelings. It was a very gentle letting go. So that's about all that's going on, big picture stuff. I just want to speak quickly. The budget is due the end of this week. And I, made it clear that that's not really achievable. What I'm going to do is sit with the Deerfield Town Accountant, Holly. We have an appointment next week and we're going to sit down and I can get the final Deerfield numbers and we can go from there. So I have completed most of the budget as far as payroll things and all of that. And of course, before that goes to Finance Committee and all of that, I'll bring it to this board. Right, and we can take it from there. Right. So call data for end of second quarter. We're at 903 calls year to date, ending New Year's Eve. And that puts us at precisely of where we were by the end of fiscal year 25. So we are on par with our expectations. I just threw this in. This is a 10-year look at call volume. Just for entertainment value, really, just to see kind of how things are going. And post-pandemic, what we see is a very predictable increase in calls. I don't know how long that is sustainable. That's anybody's guess. I do believe, it will continue to some extent. Most systems see about a 3%, 4% increase annually, just because of population increases, because of commerce, things like that. So that's kind of where we're at, right where we thought. This says Q1 to date, so this is the same time period ending second quarter. So this is response by primary service area town, and once again, these numbers are very consistent year to year. What we're seeing is about half of our calls, slightly over half, go to Deerfield, about a third to Sunderland, and a few less to Wainwright. So once again, no surprises here. Utilization, this is mutual aid given over the time period. Once again, no surprises. This mirrors what we've seen all through fiscal year 25. With Conway, Greenfield, and Hatfield taking the lead for people requesting mutual aid. We did see a fairly dramatic drop in requests coming from Greenfield. AMR has changed their staffing pattern, and I am told that this is fairly cyclical and that this happens every few years where it kind of waxes and wanes. So we appear to be in a valley at this point, which is fine. So that's where we're at. We've had a few outliers where we go far outside. But for the most part, these are the communities that use us. If we look at mutual aid given by fiscal year, we took a look back also, over a longer period, we can kind of see how that has trended. You can see fiscal year 24 is when I started and what happened there. So we're on track at this point, to roughly match what we did last year. If not slightly less, if it continues on this trajectory. With that in mind, the question comes up, what does this do to our vehicle maintenance budget? So what we looked at, this is just a 3-year look back. You can see in fiscal year 24, we spent just shy of $13,000 on repairs and maintenance. And in the next year, we spent almost $37,000. So what had happened is fiscal year 24 and prior years, not enough attention had been paid to vehicle maintenance. There was no comprehensive vehicle maintenance plan put in place. And in 25, we paid for it. And where that left us with was a lot of repair bills to keep these things on the road. And in fact, it's what really stimulated the discussion for a new vehicle purchase. So where we're at currently, at the end of the second quarter, is we're just shy of $11,000 on repairs. And that's actually right where we want to be. So my hope is that we can keep this number by the end of this fiscal year, somewhere in between those numbers, probably in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, would be not only a great improvement over having to spend all that money on repairs, but it also means we're doing a good job at avoiding those repairs. So this is encouraging. And then fuel costs are always somewhat stable, despite what you. All right, mutual aid received by town. This is where we're not available and we take mutual aid from our neighboring agencies into our primary service area. Deerfield, there were 44 cases, 23 in Sunderland and 11 into Whately. So this is our 903 calls plus these 78 calls. It gives us a total of 981. That's roughly 8% of our total call. So I think there is some room for improvement there. I'd like to see that number decrease to around 5% or lower. There are a few steps we can take to achieve that, and I'll address that. You know, of course, nobody exists in a vacuum, and accepting mutual aid is always going to be a fact of life. But let's look at why we received mutual aid. So of those 78 calls where we received mutual aid, the vast majority of them, this is area number 1. This was, we were on a call in our primary service area, one of our 3 towns, but we did not have an ambulance to staffed. There were a couple of incidences where it was a regular weekday and for whatever reason, we didn't have a complete crew. It could have been a sick call. It could have been any number of staffing concerns. However, the vast majority of these are after 5 p.m. or on weekends. So after 5 p.m., our impact ambulance shuts down and we're down to 1 truck on duty. The weekends are very inconsistently staffed with A2. I don't have dedicated assigned crew members to weekend impact shifts. So we exclusively rely on per diem coverage to facilitate that. And it happens some of the time, not all the time. So I think, you know, one of the things we could maybe do to look at reducing some of those calls that we give away is look at potential changes to our staffing configuration. I'm not saying hire more people or put on more service hours, but maybe look at our start times versus end times. We did have a schedule change the end of this last year, which has been enormously helpful in overall scheduling, where we changed our ambulance 2 shifts. They used to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we changed it from 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts, to 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts. So those folks come in at 7 a.m. and that coincides with a one's schedule change. So where that's been helpful to us is if we have sick calls or injuries or things like that, we've already got coverage. I don't have to hold people over, or I don't have to mandate people come in, or we don't have to do mandatory overtime, right? So it's been enormously helpful logistically, but looking at the numbers and just when we get those calls, it's really up until about 7 or 8 o'clock p.m. In a lot of cases up to midnight, that second call comes in and we don't have it available. Looking at the orange section, there were 10 calls where we were out on mutual aid to neighboring communities and we did not have an E2 staffed. That means we were not in town to do our own calls. What's funny about these is half of them were to Greenfield. And the crew that came in to cover our call was from Greenfield. So it is the true definition of mutual aid. We just simply swapped communities. Number 3 is, this is a third call. So both of our vehicles are in service and they're both on calls within our primary service area. But a third call comes in and obviously we don't have a third vehicle available to run it. So this is necessary mutual aid. That's a number that's not.
I interrupt you. You might be, yes, another person came and had the same reaction.
Down the hall this way.
Right, so this is the mutual aid we're never going to be able to avoid unless we're looking at, you know, putting up additional ambulances, right? And I don't believe that our call volume justifies a 30 ambulances. But I do think we are getting mighty close to needing greater unit hour coverage on a second ambulance. Maybe we can just change around when that occurs. It's my daughter call. Item number 5, this is, we are already on the call and we're requesting an additional unit. And in some cases, we have both of our ambulances there, or we have one ambulance there, but we don't have a second ambulance, but we're there and need additional resources, and we call on our neighbors to help us out. So that was actually a fair amount, percentage wise. It wasn't a lot of calls, it's just 12 of them. And this is again over the 6-month period, July to December. And then there were 3 calls at the very end where we just never got the call. Shelburne Control never dispatched South County EMS. In one case, there was one in Old Deerfield that they just sent AMR to. There was another case in Sunderland that they just sent Amherst to. And there was another case in Whately where they just sent Northampton. We were available. We could have taken the call, but they never gave it to us. So those 3 calls I will address with the Shelburne Control just to kind of find out, you know, what happened, what was the rationale. I don't think, you know, there's anything nefarious. I just think, you know, there's probably some behind the scenes thing that I'm not aware of, right? But that is the biggest reason. So really, of these 78 calls, this is not what I would expect. This broke my hypothesis. I went in thinking, because it's been such a point of discussion, there's been such concern about we're not doing our calls, we can't do our calls. I hear mutual aid coming in all the time because we're out doing calls in Hatfield and Greenfield and Conway and whatever. That is just not the case. That does happen. It's happened 10 times. But the majority of times that we take mutual aid in, we're already there or we're tied up and don't have additional resources.
And the dates on this was 7/1 through 12/31.
Yes, and I'll share all of the raw data with you. Actually, I already did.
Okay.
That's the Shelburne control document. But it's really, I parsed it all out into a spreadsheet. I'm happy to share that with you.
Okay.
That leaves us with a unit hour utilization of 0.06. That's 903 calls that we did over the 14,149 work hours in the period. What that means is we were busy on a call 6% of our work hours. So that's a very low utilization number. We've spoken about UHU in the past, and UHU, like any KPI, is just a marker, right? There's not a ton of information to be gleaned from this, but we just use it as kind of a look back to say, okay, this is, where we are. Most ambulance services are looking at 0.4 as where they really want to be, up to 0.6 even. We're not going to see that just because of our geography, because of our staffing model, and the huge area that we cover. But this is very slow, right? That being said, it doesn't feel slow when you're working, right? And of course, calls always happen at the same time. People calling 911 aren't thoughtful enough to wait until somebody else is done with their call. So there you go. And so that's with mutual aid received. So this was kind of a surprise to me. But I'm very happy with the results because while once again, there is room for improvement. I'd like to see those 10 calls where we were not available completely go away. That's not bad. That's 1.3%.
The 14,149,
Yes,
if I divide that by 24 hours in a day, it comes out with 589 days. So it's actually the total number of hours worked. All right,
well, there's 4 crew members on in a day,
right.
right? This is over a 6-month period.
So just hear me out. So 903 is the number of calls that we did.
Yep.
So each of those calls would have 2 people per call. So, and an average call is hour and a half, 2 hours.
Correct.
So shouldn't it be 903 times 2 for 2 people?
If you want to create a new system metric, sure. This is kind of the industry standard.
Okay.
It's just a very simple metric, right?
Okay,
Again, it's not meant to be, an absolute predictor of how busy you are. It's just kind of a useful guideline.
okay.
All right, so moving on to revenues and expenses. You have this in your packet. This is the end of second quarter revenue expense report. I broke it down into some charts to try and make it more useful. You can go back and look at individual line items, so if anybody's interested. So what we did was, this is also a 3-year look back, our service revenues. So this excludes anything we've received from grants, from tax assessments, from donations, from any funding source outside of service revenues, what we receive in payment for service, fee for service. So far, we're looking pretty good. So these just look at through second quarter. These aren't year-end totals, right? This is just to compare us year to year. So we can see that these have climbed over the last 3 years. We see a fairly significant jump this year, and that's really encouraging to see. At the same time, next to it, we look at total expenses, and we see that that is decreasing. So what I'd like to do is try and equalize these as much as it's reasonable. But we're getting there. So the trajectory is moving in the right direction.
The revenue figure, I know that you usually have a lag in collections. Is this anticipated revenue for that period?
This is actual.
This is actual with quite a bit of revenue for December, probably not yet collected.
Almost the entire month. That's correct.
So this is actually low for what ultimately will be that, that number.
So we've had a busy year, and it's been productive for us.
But on the flip side, you probably have revenues in here from April, May, and June that got collected in July.
Absolutely.
So it's a
Okay,
rolling
so-
12
okay.
months, so. Yeah. The good news is when it's going up, bad news is when it's going down, so.
Yeah, I didn't know how the old revenue, whether they would have been put into the overall revenues for fiscal year 25 or, okay.
So that's the end of my slideshow. From there, any questions about where we're at with any of that information? We covered it a lot in a very short time. But that's kind of the end of quarter over.
I just want to say thank you for getting the new ambulance. I know there was a lot of work that went into getting it done in a short period of time. And I certainly appreciate that,
Yeah,
getting
thank
done
you.
and making sure we're getting delivery.
Yeah, thank all of you for supporting it. I mean, and all 3 towns for supporting this. 3 towns voted for this. That's outstanding. So, and we need it. So, anything else we want to discuss about that before we move on? All right. Next is community involvement. This was a question posed to me by Tom Feidenkowitz. Specifically, Tom asked me about the senior center and how we've been involved with that. But the senior center is one place. We do have involvement with them. In fact, I'm speaking with them this month. I'm scheduled, and that's been scheduled for the past, I think, 6 months. So Senior Center and I have a good relationship. I spoke there earlier this year once. I'll speak there, this would have been almost 6 months ago. So that's kind of where they want us, is like every couple times a year, maybe. They've got a lot of activities, and those are great events, and I've had a lot of fun with them. The last one I did, we discussed Medicare and billing and what are the questions that I can answer for you about all of these things. And people have really amazing questions, things that you might expect, like, why am I getting a bill for this? I pay taxes, I pay insurance. What is this? Right? And so we talked about all those things, and there were questions like, it was only half a mile to the hospital. Why did I get charged, $1,500? Well, there's a lot of reasons, right? So that was a really good discussion. Next week, we're gonna broach a totally different topic, and that should be really fun. So we do that. We've also had a number of events with local schools. We still continue to meet with the Town Safety Committee, the events that are held at Frontier. I've not done any community CPR classes in the last several months. That's kind of died down, just the requests have not come in, but that's something we also do. And then just, the details themselves, especially during the summertime, give us a lot of community visibility and involvement. So I'm always interested in, looking for more opportunities to engage the community. Those are wonderful things to do. And I'm wide open to all kinds of things, be it people coming to us or us going to them. Of course, sometimes we have real staffing challenges. And so unfortunately, with like one school event this year, I didn't have anybody who could go cover it. And the on-duty crew call, it's not there. We had another case where a school came to us. There's, we have to go out on a call. So sometimes it can be really tough to find coverage for community events, but we do our best. And most of the times it happens and it's really.
If I thank you for the report on, I really think it's important that we bring to the attention of our residents, all the things that you guys do, that your staff does do. Sometimes, people, they have their daily jobs and they may not be in town. So they don't know where you are, but sometimes they'll see an ambulance riding through Sunderland or Deerfield, and geez, I wonder where the ambulance is going. And it's kind of doing these things, and it's key that people understand, our residents understand that we're out and about, we're doing good things for the towns and our residents. So I just think it's something that we should make a regular part of our meetings, and it's good, just like in the newspapers. You always hear bad news in the newspaper, but there's a lot of good news that happens around us also.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, a lot of times DES has these, events to raise money for various clubs, and, it's, every time I've been, there's been an ambulance there and a police car and, officers to talk to kids and their parents. So let them go inside the ambulance and see and, discuss issues. So that's definitely a great community outreach, opportunity.
Well, it's also helpful because if you ever need to take one of those students into the ambulance, hopefully we've eliminated that fear up front.
Yep.
So when they get inside, they're not terrified of going in, not knowing what they're gonna face or expect.
Exactly.
You just, is this screen active?
No, it's
No,
not.
it's just blacked out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Can Tim or Lori, can you see the meeting?
Wonder if they went away.
Sorry, Josh, what are you asking? I walked away.
On the screen, can you see our meeting?
I can see all of you guys. I don't see anything on this, like the notes or anything.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. I don't know why these are dark, but there you go. All right.
As far as communicating that to the communities, if you could make the time to do, schedule a meeting with each of the select boards and, just give a, 10-minute rundown on what we've been up to, whether it's, every 6 months, once a year, or something like that, just to get it on the record and say what you've been doing in that community. That'd be useful for publicizing it.
Or even just a little photo gallery for the town websites or something, you go to the schools and you get a couple pictures of some cute kids climbing in the back of the ambulance, those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
It shouldn't be the only time that we see you is at budget season.
You have your SCEMS website.
Yeah, the South County EMS website is a mess. It is, unfortunately, it's a project that I've backburnered. But it is in sore need of complete overhaul. Our website is peak early 2000s. Like Al Gore would be proud. And there's so much room for doing really fun updates and all of that. So it is on my mind. We'll get there. We need to fund it because what we're doing right now is so ludicrously cheap that's why we do it. So scaling this up and making it more contemporary is just going to cost us some money. And maybe it's a great idea. So we can look at that.
Maybe it's a capital request for the towns.
No, I don't think it's that much money.
No, well, I know that we just commissioned an upgrade and $10,000,
Sure.
which spread amongst the three towns wouldn't be an awful lot as far as.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a good idea. So, we have a web page through the town of Deerfield as a town department, right? But there's very little information on there. There's no photo galleries, there's no calendar, there's no. You can find meeting minutes on there, you can find agendas. It's very much set up like every other town department.
Yeah, I can't guarantee it will be approved, but I
Well,
would be
yeah,
worth the capital request rather than put,
Well,
What do
it's,
you
you
I'm just curious about Crystal and what do you think about your town's websites?
I don't know, I'll see, when the upgrade is done, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. When the upgrade, because
But the previous website, the current website is not so good.
Yeah.
That's,
I'm thinking like we could really all use a shared, web person who just does that, because basically we do a really poor job of communicating through our websites with the residents, for financial reasons. And it's unfortunate.
there are two different aspects of it, there's the mechanics of the website, and then there's the content.
Right, well,
And feeding having someone to feed the
feed
content.
the content, that's, something if our website was easy to manipulate and use, it would be a lot easier to justify feeding the content, but if you go looking for X and you don't know where X is, then no matter how much content you put there, it's useless.
But I think that may be something for the
Yeah,
joint committee
exactly.
to
I
consider.
know, we should. Anyway,
Okay.
it's great.
all right, anything else concerning community involvement?
Also, thank you, Gene.
Thank you. We've looked in the past about, looking at garage space external from our station. We have 3 bays. We could at minimum use 4 bays for our current vehicles. If we're going to have more vehicles, then it's definitely not enough. So Fred Barron had reached out about the possibility of some garage space in Whately. Being available, it's actually in this building, and I met with the town administrator and with Fred, and we went and toured it. It's very nice. It's a big commercial garage space that would store vehicles if we needed it to. It has electricity, it's accessible 24/7. The space would work very nicely. So I think, and so just let me back up. So Whately presented us with a agreement to kind of take a peek at it. And they do recommend some type of fee structure for it, some nominal fee, but they were very willing to negotiate. I don't think they're looking to
We're not looking. for a big job.
capitalize, yeah, for sure, but I think they're looking to at least cover their costs, right? And it would cover some costs, so I think the real question is. What direction are we going to go in? Because if we are going to further our operation and look to expand it, and that's another discussion to have, then we need garage space. If we're going to kind of withdraw and pull ourselves in a little bit, then we don't need garage space, because I will gladly get rid of an additional truck. We've got 2 new trucks on the way. My idea with having 4 ambulances was it would be super useful for us that we could staff 3 ALS ambulances periodically when needed. And that we would have that 4th as a spare. That's really nice. But perhaps we don't need that 4th ambulance. When we might even be able to incorporate that into our next ambulance delivery and get that price dropped down even more by offering that as a second trade. We're already trading in one with the Lifeline ambulance. So this is not the one I'm picking up this week. It's the one that was ordered a couple years ago that we're hoping to get this year sometime.
So let me get this, that one that, eventually will be here sometime. We were originally trading in 35A1 with that,
Correct.
and we chose not to because of the excessive amount of maintenance and downtime. That was
correct.
That was the initial reason we chose not to trade that in, because I believe it was only gonna be like $5,000 or something trade-in value.
That's correct. But subsequent to that, we purchased a new ambulance.
Correct.
So at this point, the whole discussion becomes new because we really don't need 351. So we had kind of explored a couple of options. I was wondering if anybody else in the greater area would be interested in it for that same $5,000, because it doesn't matter where we get it from, but does anybody need an ambulance? And nobody wants it. And I don't blame them. It's prehistoric as far as ambulances go, and it's been a sturdy warrior, but I think it's time to move on. So where that leaves us is with the new ambulance that we're getting this week and with the Lifeline coming in, we could look at not only trading in 351, but we could also look at trading in the worst shape ambulance we have now. And we would still have two very good new ambulances, and one, we think it'll be all right. So that does present some potential cost savings, or we continue along the plan of, okay, we can have 4 trucks. But that all depends on what direction we're gonna go as a service. Do we need 4 trucks or do we not? And that's a greater discussion to be had. So I think for the moment, I'm really appreciative of the time that people have put into looking at the garage space here in Whately. But I think we need to table this for the time being. We can talk about it at a future date, once we have a better understanding of what our long-term options. Does that make sense?
Is the limited time off of Friday?
As of now, no.
He's a salesman.
No, as of, if there are potential plans for that space by the police department, which are not approved or even in, it's a possibility that the police would move in there. Aside from that, we've got no other suitors for that space.
And just speaking to that, were that the case? Because, the thought could be had, well, they could share the space, but that's unrealistic. So it would be a very short-term solution, if that were to happen. I don't even know that that's really entered into actual discussion
Yeah,
yet. So,
it hasn't,
yeah,
we've had no formal proposal on that yet.
so, at this point, it's on the table, but do we want it or not? So I say we move on from the topic. That brings us to fiscal year 27 capital improvement plan, which I would also like to.
Just back to the topic, I guess, just so I kind of understand the big picture. What are we gonna do with 35A1?
The idea was that we traded in as was originally intended
Okay.
with the lifeline ambulance.
Okay, so that is still a possibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, I wasn't sure if, back when we decided to keep it, if that, that's no longer an option of trading it in.
It certainly is. So I did reach out to Lifeline and just said, hey, would it be a huge problem if that trade-in didn't happen? And they were like, well, they don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't change the price to them for the new vehicle.
Yeah.
It just means we have to come up with an extra $5,000. Right? So there was some buffer in the funding for that truck, so it would have been doable. But as far as they're concerned, it's still part of the proposal.
Oh, okay.
So when the new truck comes in, are you just gonna strip out 35A1 and park it outside until we get the,
Next week,
okay,
Zach Battistoni has a plan for that. He's gonna strip it. So Zach Battistoni does a fantastic job of all of our vehicle maintenance stuff and that vehicle maintenance stuff I want to talk about
Yeah.
briefly too. He's going to strip it, radios, the whole bit, and I'm gonna park that thing outside and not use it. Until we get a new ambulance to trade it in on. That's gonna leave our 3 garage bays with our 2 PL Customs and the new ambulance. And then when the other new ambulance comes, one of the PLs can either go to storage in Whately, and we can rotate it out on a schedule, or we can trade it in or auction it or offer it, or do whatever we're gonna do. Right, so I like having options, that's really nice. So
Somebody for Van Life will want it, we'll get to watch it, you
Some-
move across the
I
country.
mean, that would be the best case scenario, right? I mean, that's really living, so. Fiscal year 27 capital improvement plan, I would also like to defer to another time, because this is the same rationale. We don't know what direction we're going. And I do want a capital improvement plan, submitted, to be on the town meeting warrants this year. But I don't know what it's gonna look like. So I think, Matt brought up some really interesting questions. Tim has had some really good thoughts about how to, one way we could approach this. I certainly have my own ideas, so that's all for another discussion, that we can have pretty quickly. So I think for the capital improvement plan, let's wait until the next meeting.
All right, can you have all the dates that those need to be into the towns?
So like now, of course,
No, but I mean, to actually make it onto town meeting.
not offhand, but,
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Alright, I just say afterwards I can get you Sandra and
Sunday,
dates. If you want,
That'll be
just
good.
so.
All right, the last thing I have is the vehicle plan, and that's in front of you. This is a draft policy. It was felt that the best way to approach a vehicle maintenance plan for the department was to incorporate it into the policy operating procedures. So this is something that once again, Zach Battistoni came up with 100%. We had a lot of discussion about it and consultation. But the policy is on his language. And I'm really pleased with the work that he's done. So, thank you, Zach. So what this does is it kind of talks about what do we do normally, what do we do in the case of an emergency, and then how do we look ahead and try to prevent years like 2025 where we're spending a fortune. And so what Zach has done is he has started, we set up a vendor relationship where we have vehicle maintenance come to us at regular intervals, and we're performing all of the factory recommended service on our trucks regularly. That's amazing. We're actually getting it done, and we're still seeing problems creep up, but they tend to be a lot smaller. We're changing out the tires at regular intervals. We have spare tires sitting in our garage so that if we have a problem, we don't need to send it somewhere expensive. They will come to us, they will take the tire that we already have and they'll put it on the truck. We've got all of the really light maintenance stuff like filters and DEF fluid and all of that we can just do in-house. So Zach has just put together an extraordinary plan and I'm super pleased with it. Since this has been happening, none of the ambulances have been sent out for major repairs. We have had some major repairs. Heck, I had the exhaust fall off on me when I was on my way to Bay State Christmas. That was nice. But that's been fixed and it was fixed in house. Right? So that's saved us a lot of money. And even more important than that, it's prevented us from losing our ambulance for days, if not weeks on end, while it sits in limbo at some shop somewhere. They come to us, they dedicate 100% of their attention to the job at hand, they get it done and we're in service. It's amazing. And it's at roughly half the cost that our other mechanics were charging us. It's pure victory. So we're really pleased, and that's why I think we can continue to see that big decrease in vehicle maintenance continue. Now, as we get new trucks into the system, the hope is that with continued preventative maintenance and meeting all of the recommended service intervals and doing all of those things, we don't run into major mechanical problems. Or maybe if we do, they're warranted, right? So that is the plan. We'll see if it happens. You know, with ambulances, you never wanna, you never wanna be predictive, right? But there we go. So thank you, Zachary, for putting this together. Again, this is a draft. But I will work on a final product. One of the tasks that we're going to complete SCEMS in the very near future is just an annual policy manual review. I will split that up amongst the full-time employees into their particular area of expertise. I will do the administrative side of things. Zach can look at IT, communications and vehicle maintenance. Alicia can look at inventory and supply management and anything involving that we can, the list just goes on. And so I think if we divvy it up nicely and then it all comes back to me for approval, then we can get it all into kind of a similar format. And it's been a long time coming. Right.
So Chief, and it's a big question, industry talks about it all the time. So if you're roughly gonna keep the same hours, in the industry, they call known good, right? So you know something's good because you're using it all the time. But your replacement will be replacing them if we're kind of balancing the hours or miles or whatever you determine, then we're gonna be replacing them at the same time. So So in 3 years or 4 years, whatever, you'll be replacing 2 ambulances instead of replacing an ambulance every year. You may have to replace 2 at one time.
No.
No?
So in what I think is reasonable is 4 years from now, because we're gonna have 2 new ambulances this calendar year, hopefully, right? Is
Maybe.
that we purchase 1 ambulance. And then 3 years from then, we purchase 1 ambulance and we get rid of the one I'm picking up this week. That means the one that is yet to arrive will be 9 years old. And we can bypass that situation where we need to replace 2 at once, right? So it asks that we squeeze a little longer than 3 years out of 2 trucks. So we may be in for some hurt down the road, but at least there's relief in sight. Right?
Yeah, and trust my career has been trying to, you're looking at hours, you're looking at, and I can argue both ways. But at the same time, personally, I think it's more important to have known in an emergency operation like you're dealing with, known good is better than I think it's good. And sometimes when you look, like you can have a brand new, you can have a 10-year boat that has 100 hours on it. So, oh, it's only got 100 hours. That's my boat. I wouldn't buy the boat with 100 hours. I'd rather see the boat have 400 or 500 hours that make sure that it's being used all the time. So I understand it's a tough thing. I'm just saying, I personally rather your thing that and that's what you may see down the road at 8 or 9 years, you may be squeezed on a purchase, but I'd rather have a known good versus, and known good means that you're using it all the time. So I agree.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. I think that is the rationale, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that kind of underlines the whole plan.
I appreciate the preventative maintenance. I'm very big on preventative maintenance. I'd rather fix it than have it go wrong and now I'm at somebody else's mercy. And as you're finding out, the repairs beyond the preventative maintenance are much smaller than what they were in the past. I love the idea that you guys have got tires sitting over there.
Wonderful.
So if we blow a tire, now we're not trying to call all over creation, trying to get a matching tire, or if we have an unmatched, now we gotta change 2 tires or 4 tires because we can't get what we need, or the truck's sitting out of service for 3 or 4 days. So,
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of small tweaks we can make just like that. One of the things, and again, all credit to Zach on this. What we've had is we'll get a vehicle towed if it breaks down, but it doesn't go where the actual repair needs to happen, right? It goes to the dealer. And then they say, well, we can't fix that. So now it needs to get towed up to somewhere else. It just gets ludicrous.
Right.
So the idea is, instead of just calling a tow truck, the policy addresses this, right? You call me, or you call Zach, who is working in that capacity. And you say, where is this being towed to? And it's just a simple thing, but it's gonna save us a lot of money and a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right, to be able to address things. And what's cool is in most instances, it can just come back to our station. And it can be dealt with right in our garage. It's impressive what they bring in.
Are they able to do? I'm assuming that these trucks have to have alignments. So the tires, so that they don't wear irregularly, et cetera.
Alignments have been a challenge for us in the past. I know that the dealership can't do it. I'm not sure what they're capable of doing. So that's a Zach question. I'd have to follow up with him. He's really,
at Greenfield.
I've kind of authorized Zach to just run where vested. He's so invested. He reports to me and I tell him how much money we've spent and we just keep it going.
Yeah, I just remember in the past, we had some discussions about how excess wire tear or wire wear, tire wear because, no proper maintenance has been done on, suspension system, et cetera.
Mhm.
So it sounds like we're catching up with that and we keep up with that on the new trucks. It's gonna keep a lot of the expenses down.
The other piece is it feeds into crew safety.
Right.
I mean, the last thing you want is not doing the preventive maintenance. You get a suspension part underneath wears, spring comes loose, the axle comes loose, and now we've got a bigger problem because we didn't want to pay to have it looked at. So, I for one am happy to see this, and the fact that it's being done in the garage, I completely agree with you 100%. Total focus on our truck while it's there, while the mechanic's there. And then it's getting done. Any chance the mechanic need an old ambulance as his new vehicle, his shop
The
vehicle?
mechanic is, I know, driving an old ambulance as their shop vehicle, so there you go. All right, so that's that, and that's all I have for this evening. There was some other discussion, so, just as a matter of procedure, for the public record, there was a, email exchange between Matt Russo, myself, and Tim Hilchey, that was addressed to the entire group. I will attach those to the meeting minutes of this session so that they can be entered as part of the public record. And I think, I know that you wanted to have a discussion about that tonight, and I know that other people are gonna probably weigh in, so I'll turn it over.
Sure, I had done. I sent everybody a copy of the email, was an analysis on, I looked at last year. I had hoped to do this year, but Fred, to your point earlier, we're looking at calls for December, we don't have those revenues yet, we don't know what we're gonna collect. So by looking at last year, it gave me a good idea of what we did, what we billed, what we collected. It's great to bill. And I know we typically, this is gonna sound crazy, we bill more than what we expect to collect. And it's done that way so that hopefully private insurance pays at a higher rate. We know Medicare and Medicaid pay the lower rate. And call it what you want, I call it a form of socialized medicine. Those with private insurance help to cover for those who are on state or government funded insurance. And I know I've been pushing on the mutual aid piece. It's not that I don't want to help our neighbors. It's that my theory has been if we do help our neighbors should pay for the service that they're receiving. In my mind, mutual aid is, as you explained earlier, we're picking up a call in Greenfield, Greenfield's coming to pick up a call for us. That's mutual aid. When we're going and covering a third of the calls in Hatfield, and I don't think Hatfield's coming up here to cover a third of our calls, I don't call that mutual aid. To me, that's one-way primary aid. And what further got me on the Hatfield piece, not to pick on our neighbors to the south, in 2023, there was a report done for the town of Hatfield that stated they needed to do something. And that something was either contract with Northampton or hire more staff for themselves to help cover what their needs were. Whately, be it selectmen, be it the town, made the choice not to fund what they needed to do to take care of their own community. So we've been. Hatfield, I'm sorry, Hatfield, I apologize.
Fred was coming out of his chair.
I'm sorry, Fred, I'm looking at the sign above. I'm sorry, Hatfield chose, Whately has very generously chosen to cover the needs for their community, and we appreciate it. So I wrestle with how do we make this fair for our taxpayers who are supporting the service here. Ever since I've been involved in EMS, I've always heard, and the finances have probably proven it out, that it's not a service that's going to make money. It's a service that will always need to be augmented with taxpayer support. And my fear was that the more calls we do, are we actually bringing in enough money to cover those additional expenses? You can probably get somebody who's a mathematics whiz beyond what I am capable of to come up with all kinds of formulas to figure out the fixed expenses, the variable expenses, the cost per mile, the cost per call. I just did a straight line, total expenses divided by the total number of transports. When we are called to go on a medical call and don't transport the patient, we can't bill for that. So in looking at that data, there are 310 times last year that we went mutual aid, didn't transport a patient, and weren't paid for that. So if you take that 310 times and divide it by 52 weeks, 6 days out of 7, our ambulance left, went on a mutual aid call, didn't pick up a patient, came back, but we all incurred that cost for that truck to go and come back without getting any type of revenue for it. So
Can I just break in, where is that number from?
that number is based on the fact that we did 587 requests for mutual aid, and there were actually 277 mutual aid transports. So if you take the 587 and deduct the 277 transports, it came out with 310 responses to mutual aid communities.
So that's not looking at intercepts, that's just looking at transports.
Just looking at transports.
So we did roughly 300 intercepts on top of those. So that 587 number is probably not including intercepts because those won't be listed under transport. So we do collect on those calls, but we don't get an insurance reimbursement.
Okay.
We get a direct payment from the calling community,
Okay.
right?
All right, and I apologize because I didn't ask for that information. I thank you for correcting me.
That was the question I had. I was trying to understand that number and I would have been shocked, you know, as you probably might have been.
Yeah, and when you look at if you look at an intercept, if we're using, I'm gonna call it the electric vehicle, the intercept vehicle to do those, we're using a vehicle that cost us 70,000. Well, it costs 0, but to replace it, it's
Negligible almost.
okay.
Yeah.
Versus using a $350,000 ambulance that's gonna cost more per mile to operate.
Absolutely.
So there's another factor in this, which is the intercept piece of it. And, you know, at what point does that intercept piece help to break even? So all this to say, I feel that we can't continue to provide the service that we do, mutual aid, especially to the 3 communities, and I don't want to use the term abuse it, but utilize it the most because they may not have their own services readily available. I already spoke to Hatfield. I know Conway is in the process of purchasing a new ambulance. So we're gonna use our trucks to drive back and forth past a brand new truck sitting in Conway's garage that they'll get more years out of because they're calling us mutual aid to handle some calls. And Greenfield, while they, you know, they've got a free service from AMR, they've done some things with their fire department. Again, do you need to hire more folks in Conway, or I'm sorry, in Greenfield to cover your own calls? As we, especially going into this year, last year we pulled money from our reserves to help lower the amount of the assessment for the 3 member towns. This year, we don't have those reserves. The budget's not done as of yet. So as that gets done and those assessments go up, I've heard the grumblings in the past. I'm sure we're gonna hear them again. And part of the question is gonna be, what are we doing to address it? So I wanted to put numbers to it to bring it forward. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think the answer is, and I don't. If a neighbor community was to call right now, we have a cardiac arrest and we need you to come help, I want that ambulance to go and help. That's not the time to fight this out. The time to figure this out is between select boards and the people who govern. It shouldn't be on the back of those who answer the call. And that was my whole point in this. How do we work together to figure out how we address that shortfall so that the communities that are using us the most are going to help to pay something into this system so the assessments don't have to go up as much as they would need to otherwise, because you're enjoying the benefits of the service without paying for it. And, you know, that's where I stand with this. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here, but I've been struggling with this. I finally had gotten all the information I thought I needed to put pen to paper and figure it out. And it was pretty surprising when you did some straight line math and you saw, you know, the cost per call and what the shortfall is per call. I mean, based on average collection rates. And in those 3 communities, the shortfall came out to about a little over $212,000. Now granted, in our own communities, we had a shortfall of about $535,000. But that's more than covered by the assessment. And the part that was a little alarming to me is when you look at what the 3 communities paid in the assessment: Deerfield at $444,000, Sunderland at $270,000, and Whately at $143,000. We're not only paying for our shortfall, we're paying for the shortfall in the other communities as well. And granted, some of that, if you didn't do those mutual aid, that would go away. Our shortfall per call would definitely go up because you don't have as many calls to spread it out. So again, I don't have all the answers, but I wanted to at least put it in front of this group to help figure out what do we need to do going forward. We've been at this now 10, 11 years. I think the service is great. I think it's been more successful than I could have ever hoped and dreamed it would be. But I don't think we can continue providing services to the communities outside the service area and not receive something in return to help us offset our operating costs.
And I don't think it's a one size fits all solution, unfortunately.
Agreed.
Because I think, you know, and again, I apologize to anybody in Hatfield who's listening to this. But Hatfield made a conscious decision to not staff. And they made a conscious decision to not contract with Northampton. That is a very different situation, in my opinion at least, than Conway, who's trying. Conway hasn't made a decision not to staff. It's that they can't find staffing, that they don't have enough. So I personally don't want to see a one size fits all solution here and just say, we're going to charge X number of dollars per mutual aid call, because we could very easily be in that situation here. Right now, we've got 2 people out sick, right? That may necessitate us needing more mutual aid for the short term.
Sure.
For something beyond our control.
Sure.
A sickness, an illness. Maybe they all go out and buy a lottery ticket together and, you know, we have no staff in 2 weeks.
It's my dream.
Exactly. But we should keep in mind that we could need the help.
Sure.
But I truly believe that Hatfield situation is too many conscious decisions were made there, and that shouldn't be affecting what our towns are having to pay for an assessment.
I think the whole future of this organization depends on our fiscal relationship with the other towns at this point. Particularly the 3 towns provide the greatest call. The question is, if we say, we're gonna set a fee, patron charge or, whatever fee we do, and they say, no, we don't have the town, whichever town just says, and we don't have the money, no, we're not gonna pay it. We have to make a decision, what are we gonna do at that point? Are we going to say we are not going to service those communities and let those people with medical problems suffer? Or are we gonna continue on what we've been doing, which is calling it mutual aid and providing the service? Because if we don't provide the service, we're also losing the revenue of those calls. It's not, there's no easy answer. There's no right answer of you provide the calls and the loss, or you don't provide the calls and the people suffer. There's no right answer, but if we ask these other communities for, whether it's an annual fee, whatever, and they say no, we have to decide what are we gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate, and first I want to apologize. I didn't intend to create an open meeting, issue by sending out an email to everybody. When I started this, it was yesterday, and when I finished it, it was today, and my plan was to do one thing and I did another thing. But in any case, my first point is, this idea of looking at it this way is a good one. And we should have been doing this, none of us have a lot of free time. So, but there's some encouraging things in here, right? One of the encouraging things is if you go down and just look at the totals of all the revenue that was collected in 2000 fiscal year 25, $168,000 plus change. You multiply that by 3, and you got an ambulance, loaders, oxygen, life support materials. Without it, that all comes back to us. And to Deerfield, that's like $85,000 in addition to what we're doing. So we do have to find a way to rationalize this. And I don't know the answers to this. That's why I'm advocating that maybe we spend $15,000 and hire an actuarial professional to tell us what do these different things mean? Because you can look at one set of information and say, oh, that's a negative. And then it's not really a negative. It's like GDP, right? You raise tariffs, you stop importing stuff, your GDP figures look better, but the situation is not necessarily better. So, and I don't have, that's not my background. I mean, I've got an electrical engineering background, I'm high level math, but credits and debits, not my specialty. But I was encouraged by a lot of the things your findings pointed out. And I guess I'd asked to get, give us all the listings of the intercept fee agreements we have. Do they vary or are they all the same? And who do we have them with? And how much money comes in because of those? If we have an intercept agreement with Hatfield and they're paying us $300 a visit, then I'd like to know that. Because that would be helpful. That's kind of like a per call fee. And then whatever we collect. The other question is, some of these are questions like, what does mutual aid mean? Anytime we go to Conway, it's not mutual aid because they can't provide paramedic service. So even though they're buying an ambulance, we could ask the question, is that the right direction for them? Should we talk to them and say, your residents would be safer if you joined SCEMS and we kept an ambulance up there and had a paramedic up there during, whatever period of time. So that's another question I don't have the answer to is how would you design this system should Conway want to come in? But
Conway has shown apparently no interest in coming into this.
Well, right, and I can understand how, they can think that what they're doing is logical, and to them, that's why I say emotion plays a huge thing in this, right?
But whether they would listen to outside.
Right, whether they would, that's why you'd have to draw something that says, here's a cost benefit analysis. The cost of your any of your residents dying because you have this system in place that doesn't work. You know, if you just look at it, it doesn't work. You buy a brand new truck, you drive it to the place where the person is, you don't have paramedics, you can't put them on your truck until a paramedic gets there to do triage. So what's the purpose of buying the truck? But that's me looking at it from my perspective. In their perspective, you know, if both of their basic EMTs come, maybe they can put them in the truck and take them to a hospital. You know, this, I don't know. I've never been an EMT. So if I'm saying something that's silly, just, you know, take it for what it's worth. But they have to rely on some other service to provide a paramedic because they don't have it. So in Hatfield's case, I think they have 2 paramedics, maybe, and maybe some more basic EMTs.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
sure of the roster.
But I agree that I think Hatfield probably in bringing what they brought to town meeting for voters to decide, I think they probably made a mistake by including a very expensive, you know, fire piece of equipment. If they were just asking, do we want to hire some more help for our EMS service? They might have gotten a totally different answer.
Sure.
And so part of that's on the person who brought that to the public. Because I don't think the public, one of the reasons why I support what we do is because I care about my neighbors, and I'm sure they care about their neighbors too. You know, you gotta have good intent, assume good intention until, you know, but there would be a time when if somebody brought me a package that included all kinds of things that I didn't think the town needed at that moment, I would have to vote no. And it might not be that all of it I objected to, 80% of it was fine, but this other thing is just, you know, so I don't know what happened there, and I'm not from Hatfield, but we definitely need to understand intercept fees and how that impacts things. And what is that other thing called? That is that the intercept fee if you go to a town on a call, or is that? What's the thing where?
What we've looked at is, intercepts and transports are completely different things. Right? Transport is, I have a patient in a South County ambulance and we take them to the hospital. Intercept is, we go meet up with
Right.
another town's ambulance, and in their ambulance.
Right.
We jump on board and we go with them.
And you provide advanced.
And we
advanced care.
provide advanced care. Now, we can't bill that call to insurance. We are not the transporting ambulance. Medicare prohibits, right? So that calling town is going to bill the patient for mileage, for service, for all of that. We then go to that town and say, okay, we have this agreement for intercept, right? Please pay us for the service.
And we have one with Greenfield who came to us a few years ago, right? Or
We have agreements with
Yeah.
so many.
and there's X amount of dollars per intercept.
We have essentially everybody around.
Yeah.
So, and I think I've signed 3 more mutual aid agreements in the last year and a half, right, with towns we didn't have agreements. So the goal is
Intercept agreements.
in mutual aid and intercept.
Oh, mutual aid also.
And the mutual aid, what that means, for the most part, it doesn't say that we agree to come to your call. Right, it just says that if we are dispatched and if we go to your call, we're going to bill it. Right? That's all that means, right? It's not a run card, it's not who Shelburne dispatches, it has nothing. So I think everybody's made really great points. I've taken the liberty of reaching out to the Collins Center for UMass Boston. They recently conducted Northfield UMass study. They've done all kinds of work. This is what they do. I have a phone call scheduled with them on Friday. And I just kind of want to take a look at, okay, what would this look like? One, can we afford it? 2, if we can, what I'd like to look at as what are potential paths for us with those super smart math wizards, who can do those numbers. And I want to look at Conway, and I want to look at Hatfield, and I want to look at apron fees, which is something like we go out, we charge an additional fee. We can look at a blanket service fee based off of an estimation over a fixed time period, like a year or a quarter or something like that. We could look at that. We could even look at, do you want to fall under the umbrella and join SCEMS? What would an assessment be? Think maybe they don't, right? But at least we're armed with the information that helps steer our decision making. So I would like to come back to the boo once I have an idea of what is this going to cost us? What does this look like? Do you approve of this? Is this the right path we want to take? But I think as a service, it's not the service that was created 11, 12 years ago. It has really matured a lot. And, you know, we're at kind of a transition point right now where we need to look at what are we going to do? Because even if you don't look at cost, take cost completely out of the discussion, not that you ever really could. But if we avoid that, we're at a point right now, as evidenced by just our numbers of calls, where we're starting to maybe see a potential need for change in service coverage. So if we're going to continue along this trajectory, and this was all, you know, this is all going according to plans, then we are going to need to fund that somehow. So I'm in complete agreement. But I think the best way to go about this is professionally, with information that, frankly, I'm not capable of giving. So
When we formed, it all started with a study that was done through the FERC, right? And I personally, I would say that there are some towns that should have Gary Stone talk to them. And Gary Stone knows what I'm gonna say, right? But there's a man right there that tried everything in his power to maintain the Whiteley EMS system for 3 or 4 years, basically on his own shoulder, right? And he made us, in his opposition to South County, he made us stronger because we had to have hard discussions. And there was things that happened, and I know you get embarrassed when I say things like this, but that's why I do with it. But he had in his life, not professional, but his part-time, full-time job as EMS director in Whiteley, he saw, and we actually had a resident from Whiteley told me during the conversation that if he had a heart attack, he wanted an EMT from Whiteley to be given him CPR. And I was dumbfounded, but what it did was it told me how deep that the feeling was and what he had to overcome to, and it wasn't him that said that, but for him to overcome that, to say that South County was a good idea. And I don't think the hard part is that we're discussing money in life, right? A lot of what we don't see is that AMR bigwigs talk about this every day. But what and my friend down in Jacksonville, we had a conversation just the other day, and because they were complaining, or they had friends complaining that they still have to pay for their ambulance usage, although the city of Jacksonville supports it. So it's not unique to South County EMS. And then I explained, I said, well, if we don't do transports to take somebody from Cooley Dick to Springfield or Boston, where you can charge $5,000 or more for that trip. We're pure medical emergency services, and there's a difference. And most private ambulances and Hadley has Action AMR. They're in that community to get a foot in the door to do those transports. And I don't think we want to do that. And I think it's a hard discussion, but I'm proud that we're able to have that discussion. And no offense to any town, but these are conversations that board of directors all across the country have that run an ambulance system. We unfortunately, or fortunately, get to have that discussion in public. And to understand, you can come see our budget. You can come, Matt, just like Matt said, we actually lose money. And Chief, you said for many years, we actually lose money doing, and that's why we have assessments. And I just think that's important. People don't realize it. Why pay taxes? I do too. But I understand that we have to pay a little bit more to have quality of service.
Yeah, I think the point here, kind of vision two is that it is, there is value in that tax, right? We know that we're gonna have to pay for it and, the residents of these three communities have come together to support this year after year, through continued funding and voting yes. And that's outstanding. So I think there is support for service and what we do, and I think people see the value in that expense, right? Of course, we want to deliver greater value for that expense, and if we can reduce that expense, that's even better, right? What we don't want to do, and this was a big part of when I came in here, is we want to avoid the path where it incrementally just gets more and more expensive to operate the same level of service. And we've broken that, which is nice. But now we're getting more expensive to operate more service. And so we need to find that balance. And it is doable. Plenty of communities have. Unfortunately, plenty of communities' ambulance services in the past few years have shuttered. And that's always a shame to see. We're in a very different position than most of those because of our funding through the assessments. So we're fortunate. If it's okay with the boo, what I would like to do is explore this idea with an actuary. And see what might be possible. And then we can have a discussion, because we keep bringing this up meeting after meeting, and we just really get nowhere with it. And you know what, that makes sense, right? None of us have the answers. So let's get some answers, and then we can have a better informed conversation about.
So are you gonna get an RFP from the Collins Group?
Probably. I'll talk to them and see what it would look like. There are several groups that we could look at. Collins Group is kind of low-hanging fruit because I've had conversations with them in the past, and they're a known entity.
FERCog's interacted with them a lot, and a lot of communities around here have interacted with them. There's another public consulting group. I don't know much about them, except that they are a large reputable group that does emergency medical services analysis.
Is the MMA conference coming up?
Yes, it is. And so one of the things I'm gonna look into down there is, hey, does anybody, have EMS specializing services that, analyze data?
There's plenty of them.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we're going to the Mass Municipal Association conference in 10 days, or 9 days. And so that'll be one of the things I'm looking into, and I was interested in the data you presented tonight about why did we get mutual aid and who do we get it from, and how often it is because, well, most of the time it's not because we, we were out on 2 calls at the same time. It's all very understandable. And so that's encouraging. I mean, having the staffing we do and having that little bit of, questionable or, why wasn't the ambulance available? You know, well, it's for very good reasons. So that was encouraging. In your analysis, which I, again, you know, that was what I was hoping to do with, you know, with Chief, but he was sick last week when we originally started to do this. So I was glad when you had done it. Did we do like 1,800 calls in FY25 or did we do fewer?
Oh, no, it's around 1,800.
Because another metric, you know, simple metric is budget is 1.8 million, 1,800 calls, $1,000 a trip. You know, that's another way you could do it. That's why there's so many ways you can look at the, you know, the cost of delivering the service. Is there a standard? Is there one that actually tells you why you shouldn't consider one set of variables as give as much weight to them as you give to another? And
The trick with that, you know, healthcare is a little unique in that you don't have a lot of certainty. There's a lot of unknown variables when it comes to cost per transport. We can look at averages, but like the average, for example, doesn't look at even ALS versus BLS versus ALS 1 or 2. It doesn't look at mileage. It doesn't look at geography. It doesn't look at staffing on the vehicle. It's just an average. So if you do look at all of the components of it, one call could cost very little compared to the cost of the next call, just because of so many different variables. So it's really challenging across all areas of healthcare to come up with cost. And you know, it's not a widget price. You know, we're not producing a common good, right? We're producing all these different variations constantly. So this is a challenge that hospitals face, that all EMS services face. You know, and yes, but this math does exist, so I say we go for it that way.
at least find out what it would cost.
I agree, and I don't know if it's a bigger issue for the FERCog to look at it countywide.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
You know, because there's us in South County.
Yep.
There's now Northfield up and operating, and I'm sure he's covering probably Northfield and Berniston and some other communities. Out in the west part of the county, I believe Charlemont, Shelburne, Coleraine, Shelburne Falls. I believe Charlemont's covering multiple
And I don't even
communities.
know if Leiden is involved in that. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know where Leiden falls in, but at some point, I don't think Charlemont's gone full-time. I think he's still hanging on as a volunteer service. But at some point, I think other parts of the county realized what we realized 10, 11 years ago, that we couldn't continue to do it on the backs of the volunteers. And I think, I don't have the data, but I'd be willing to bet good interventions early with highly qualified, or I should say with paramedics, because I would assume they're all highly qualified or qualified because they've gotten their card. Probably leads to better outcomes when they get to a hospital, shorter stays. And my big thing was somebody returning home versus winding up in long-term care.
yep.
So someone had a great example years ago. Paying taxes for an ambulance is like having an insurance policy. You know, I've been in my home 20 some odd years. I've never, ever had to make a claim. Knock on wood, hope I never do. But every year I pay that money. And it's the same with an ambulance service. You might, it's like kids going to school. If you've got kids in school, you're paying the taxes, you're getting something out of it. Now your kids graduate. So what am I paying for school for? Or my kids have been out for 30 years. I'm still paying school taxes. Well, it's the same with an ambulance or a fire department. You're going to pay those taxes. Hopefully you never need it. But if you do, it's comforting to know that they're there and they'll be able to take care of you.
The problem there, and the way we're set up here is, for lack of a term, the resentment of the people here, because we're providing that service in towns where they're not paying those
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
So the only thing I would expand is that I would talk to the town of Amherst. you know, I know the town of Amherst pretty much started the conversation with us, is they wanted to build the town of Sunderland $80,000 a year just because they answered our, you know. And, yeah, and we needed advanced clear, so they wanted, and they at the same time, they asked for 120,000 from the town of Haddon. I don't know if that's what they still do with their community, it's a question.
And I know that FERCog, I think they've had some sort of regional EMS symposium conference, but I know that that's on their radar, so I think getting in touch with,
And
and
then-
asking for,
It has to be.
what have you been doing on this issue and how have you helped other towns to address it?
That discussion of West County,
Yeah.
where Colerain is really the only ALS service around.
Right?
Yeah.
And you think about it, what do they, what,
Yeah.
Tim, you're right, Timmy, you're right, I mean, what do you do? And the thing is, this is a model,
Right.
but some people don't wanna pay that extra money. And, or, in Gary's case, and he can talk to it, people like to know that ambulance is in their garage in the highway, and next to the highway.
Exactly.
And then you say, okay, so you realize that when you get a call on a January night, on a snowy night, the guy's gotta get up at 2 a.m, he's gotta get up, we have, most likely whoever's answer call,
Most likely
he's go to the
dressed.
bathroom, he's gonna get dressed, he's gotta go walk, take the ice off the car, he's got to start the car, then he has to drive, hopefully the road has been plowed, he's gonna drive to the station, he's gonna wait for the second guy to get there, and we have shown that we get a call in 7 minutes, doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m, 7 minutes, the ambulance is gonna be there.
All right.
But until it's proven successful, as this has, people like local emergency services, like police, fire, ambulance, as local as they can get it.
I only
And they don't-
want a white guy doing CPR on me, Fred.
Well, I can't blame you.
Okay, Fred?
And to your point, this is not just gonna be an EMS issue.
Yes.
This is gonna be an issue in the fire service because those pumpers, those fire trucks, the engines, the regulars, say a regular standard fire truck, although there's probably no such thing. But the one that comes with the water, and maybe a ladder or two on the side, have gone from when I started, probably about $300,000. And I'm hearing a local community just purchased one for $850,000. Now granted, it's a
I'm
30
hearing a
truck.
million plus, so.
Yeah, that's, that 800 is too.
Okay, so you get into ladder trucks and you're $2.5, $3 million. So they're gonna start, fire trucks are gonna start pricing communities out.
Yeah.
Of the fire service, and there's gonna have to
That
be.
was where I was leading with that, is that people want local services, on the other hand, they're getting priced out.
Yeah.
I believe that EMS has already priced itself out of a
And
lot.
I think fire departments to a large extent they may not realize it yet, but,
Just because.
When they
they've
buy
For
this-
so long.
right,
And
when they
that's
have to
why.
buy their next piece of equipment, they will realize.
Yeah.
We can't afford $1.25 million for,
Well, you know, a one size fits all also is not the approach to EMS deployment.
Right.
Like with all things, right? In most communities, it makes sense to regionalize advanced life support and to have closer basic life support. Because more ALS does not equate to better outcomes always. But in
I'll
certain.
argue with you there.
But in certain cases, it very much does. And so you need access, right? But there are dangers to oversaturation of advanced life support too. Because what you get are a bunch of people who are not getting much experience. So there is a balance on that side of things, but that's a whole nother conversation. And I don't know, is there any other discussion that we want to have about this topic tonight?
Well, I didn't hear Solomon speak, so I guess we're not going to solve the problem.
Well, I was just wondering, there were two things that, and I agree with everybody's, you know, if a community makes the decision not to spend money, it's difficult to not keep that in your mind. One element that we've done in the past is we've blanket, not not billed for services for certain group of people? Do we change the rules for people who are Hatfield residents or Conway residents or whatever place it is that says, you know, we've decided not to bill, you know, beyond Medicare. And yet the person we're not billing beyond Medicare, it makes 500,000 a year or something, you know, and they don't live in our community. And so we're not treating everybody the same in our community unless we have a blanket rule. But so that's another complicating thing. It's like, who do you forgive and who do you send the billing agent after? And I find it very easy to make that decision for the SCEMS communities, but it's a more complicated question if we don't have, you know, an apron fee. I guess, is an apron fee the one where you just charge every time you come? Right, so, you know, should we think about an apron fee? And if we did, where would we start? Would we start like $200 or $500 or, you know, that's another thing. I hope this,
I think we can look at experience at other places and see
Yeah, exactly.
what works.
And I would even be open to, if we're gonna go apron fee. You know, we've got all the data on what we've collected per community.
exactly.
Look at it per community based on what the gap is per community, and then I wouldn't mind if we visited it every year based on what the previous year showed us. And adjust that,
Do with a school with
yeah. to
School
keep it-
enrollment.
I'm not in the business to line our pockets.
Yeah,
So that we can go out and, you know, have the Taj Mahal and all kinds of stuff. I just want to make sure that we're covering our costs. Because at some point, to the point you were making earlier, we're gonna need to expand. Whether it's more garage space, whether it's more space for a crew, if we start adding additional crew. The additional crew will not only benefit our 3 communities.
Yep.
But it's gonna benefit beyond this.
right.
So if you're gonna get the benefit,
Yeah, you gotta pay.
we're looking for you to pay for it,
And-
they'll support it.
Yeah, but my issue is, I'm looking at this and looking at Hatfield, we've sent 97 transports in Hatfield so far, so let's call it 200 for the year. If we put an apron charge of $200 on this, pick a random number, that's $40,000 for Hatfield for the year. What if Hatfield just says no?
Well, you know, we have,
Then we have to decide.
we have,
Or you do the same thing Northampton did,
Yeah,
right? If that's what you're saying.
and the town of Hatfield, you need to go find a primary provider who's gonna take care of you.
For $40,000.
But we have to make a decision then on a moral basis. We are just not going to answer calls on Hatfield.
And it's, and I understand the moral point. Hatfield made the financial decision, don't make it our moral issue.
I think.
Mutual aid is, you have a bus rollover, you have 30 patients, yes, we'll go to that. But your person in the middle of the night who needs an ambulance, and you and your community chose not to fund, to staff up to where you need to, that's not mutual aid anymore.
No, I know, but we've also got, the chief has said in the past, a financial decision. If we don't make those 200 calls, we're not getting the 200 Medicare or whatever reimbursements from those calls.
Yeah, and maybe-
Overall revenues are going down.
maybe the apron fee really, I mean, if we have an intercept and we get paid for the intercept. And then we have a trip where we don't get an intercept, maybe that's the apron fee. So
I'm saying.
our truck drove down there and drove home because there was no work for us to be done, but we were displacing service to our community. So we need to get some, so maybe it's like 15%
Yeah,
of
but
it.
if we, that's said, if we don't do Hatfield calls, if we just say, Hatfield, you've made your bed, lie in it, we're not answering calls. We are also, by the calls we're not making, hurting our own financial situation.
Yeah, but we're losing money covering those calls now.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but if we make 1,800 calls and it costs 1.8 million. And we didn't lose any money because the budgets match up at the end of the year, did we actually lose money? Oh, we paid for a service, and one way we paid for the service and kept it at 1.8 million was doing those extra calls. If we didn't make those extra calls, we would be in the red.
And we might have to.
Or our assessments would have to go up, so we weren't.
Cut hours or do
There,
something.
there is no
That's-
question that doing the mutual aid is financially beneficial. for our agency. It does in fact increase the cost across the board per call. If you want to look at it that way, I find it very challenging to look at it that way. You know, my stance on this.
Sure.
I don't want to lose that revenue. I also understand the political implications. I understand, that we need to first and foremost provide that service in our own communities, and we're showing that we are in fact. Right.
And all I'm saying is it's a very multifaceted decision to say, we're gonna charge the other. You know, unilaterally, we're gonna charge other communities this. And my problem is when they say no.
I think it makes sense to get actual numbers, because we're kind of spitball.
Right, yeah. Oh,
That's why I'm hoping
that's-
a
yeah,
professional.
I agree, but, you know,
The one I feel most, the one I feel for the most is Whately, because we're providing, in some cases, more service to other communities that don't pay a dime than what we're providing to Whately, who does pay for the service.
Thankfully not, but it's close. Yeah.
It's close.
Right, it is close.
Yep.
And that's tough.
and I don't hear that, and from anyone that Whately should get out of this.
And I appreciate that, and we appreciate Whately as a,
I don't,
I mean,
Gary, I don't, you hear it either.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody out of it. I want to expand and I want more people to come into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's proven itself, it's had its legs now. I think when we built this thing, we looked at probably 10 years. And we agreed that after 10 years, we're probably gonna need to do something and tweaks and changes and. The rate at which we replace ambulances, we figured was gonna go up, and I think now we're at that point and we need to figure out what does the future hold.
And this is gonna be a tough budget season for the Skims, because we made the decision in 3 towns to buy an out of cycle. Ambulance, when we knew we had another ambulance coming on, that we do have the money set aside for it.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be.
Yeah.
An interesting discussion,
Well, I will get the budget to everybody. We are running very short of time. So is there anything else that we want to bring up before we open it up to public comment?
Quick question, I know we had talked earlier in the year, you were gonna post notices. For promotional tests. Towards the end of the year or beginning of the year, has that happened or is,
I don't think we're ready.
okay? All right, I was just looking for an update on that. I also, we started last year. And I think it left off in May, putting together goals. For a performance evaluation, I don't ever think that got finalized.
right, it got brought to the select board and then the Boo came back with some issues. And the Boo never followed through and finished up that, so.
And the EMS chief decided since the Boo had hijacked it completely, they were no longer my performance goals. And we can look at that another time.
I mean, one thing, in order to get performance goals, one thing that would work is to let the Deerfield Town Administrator work with what we had sent to them. And at least get some goals.
Okay,
That's one possible approach. It may not be the best possible approach, or maybe we let somebody from Conway or somebody, the TA from, Whately and the TA from Sunderland. Just give this responsibility to somebody so we can get it done. Because we keep being unable to finish that piece. And I'm not blaming anyone, that's how.
I was gonna suggest putting it on the next agenda so we can get it done, so we can get this finished and get it off the table.
Yeah, I thought that we were asked to let the Deerfield board finish.
Yeah,
If that's the case, then I'll get it done before the next meeting.
yeah, it's a Deerfield BOS task. It's
Yeah.
not a Boo task.
No, it's not a food task,
Yeah.
and I didn't think it was.
Okay, so we got input from you guys. I'll bring this back to Christopher Dunn and say, look, let's try to get this thing finalized. The next time we do it, we'll do it more efficiently and more effectively. And we'll figure out a system where the Boo gives us the input we need. Because obviously it's important for all of us as a community of neighbors to set goals that we all agree are the right ones.
I will follow up with you, early next week and before you, go to select board. I just wanna take a look at it.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we will probably have to do this for our February first meeting in February because MMA is coming up and we won't be able to get it on the agenda and everything, but we should get it done within the next 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. Good. And if that was the final decision of the move that Deerfield was gonna finish this up, my bad, I'm gonna make sure.
I'm not looking to assign blame, I just wanna get it
Well, you're from
done,
Deerfield.
because I think we owe it to the chief, so he knows what he's gotta perform against.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, but nothing wrong with, goal number one, miracle work.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree
We've
with that,
already
right?
achieved that.
You're gonna be walking on water and all types of things. by the
So,
You want
time
number two walking on water?
Just in the interest of time, can we, open this up if anybody, public has any comments?
Nice job.
I appreciate that. Thank you much. Anybody online? Lori?
I don't know who's online anymore.
All right, with
Motion
that,
to adjourn.
let's
Do
look
we
at
need to-
next meeting.
Next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting.
I would like to continue along the path of meeting quarterly, however. We have a budget that we need to get approved prior to. FinCom. So. I think we need to schedule sooner than that. And I think we should make the bulk of the agenda the budget. My calendar is fairly.
Like the first week in February.
Oh, that seems so soon.
When do you have to have that budgets?
I mean, I can submit, well, FinComs aren't until. How are they here? No, so let's be on the safe side. Yeah, we could, does that work first week of February?
Tuesday,
Tuesday the 3rd.
Tuesday the 3rd. Or a holiday or?
No, it isn't.
no,
Monday's Groundhog Day.
Can't do it.
doesn't somebody,
could be-
doesn't somebody have a meeting Monday nights?
We have Monday.
Yeah.
You might select one.
Select board.
We have
Mondays.
FinCom select board Monday meetings. Yeah,
Okay.
so we kicked in.
Alright, and so we're gonna look at,
Wrap up.
Tuesday the 3rd.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
We were Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Went back to Wednesday.
Tuesday the 3rd,
Tuesday the 3rd, you're all getting an invite, location to follow.
You're always welcome here.
I appreciate, I like it here, it's really nice.
I do too.
Alright, that's all I have.
Hey, motion?
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 They're unanimous. Call us out at 8:02.
6 o'clock.
Thank you, everyone.
Is it 6 o'clock?